and find those corporations who are at the bottom of that list, who have no African Americans on their board, and offer HistoryMakers as a resource. Similarly, for this affinity credit card, I don't know if any of you saw the latest NAACP industry report cards, but this year the NAACP rated banks. I believe Bank One got an F, or Capital One, or one of those bank companies got an F.
Bank card.
Yes, I suspect that that bank company is going to be looking for ways to improve that score, and that may be a possible way to do that.
I can give you information on affinity credit card because Chicago Public Schools got its own affinity card, and we had a lot of trouble getting one at the beginning because teachers do not pay their bills according to the affinity cards. So it took us a while to get the card. But if we have a Rolodex and we have a group of people who will commit to getting this affinity card, HistoryMakers, for example, will all get it, and they have good credit, that's a good way of getting a card. But you've got to have your own database. Okay, thanks.
All right, that's great. Okay, we have about 30 minutes, and there are two things that I think we should do. One is, I think we should just have a little more continuing discussion about some of these ideas that were brought forth. And people have made specific commitments about things they'll do, but there's a lot of discussion of ideas. There's a little less discussion of how this fits in the timeline, particularly this 3 to 6 month period, which is so critical to the HistoryMakers right now. And so we would like to put some specific names to actions that people will take. And again, we'd also just like some more discussion on these ideas. First, go ahead, Tony.
Right. Well, first of all, Amy's going to kill me if I don't say this right away, but in your packet, we have our membership form, which everybody should fill out and make sure they're a member before they leave here today, but also take one and give it to a friend. Because if every one of us got one person, interested in the HistoryMakers, by being a member, that would be a great thing. Charity begins at home. But the second thing I was going to say was I like the idea that I think it was this table had of just having everybody fill out a card, with the 4 things that they're going to do as far as what their action items are over the next 3 to 6 months. And then, we can follow up on it. And I think one of the things that we discussed at our group was having a development committee. I mean, even if you don't have a person in-house doing it, you can have a development committee that would be an outgrowth of both the advisory committee and the board members and whoever else that you thought would be good on that would meet on a regular basis, that would be responsible for a forum for people to talk about what they've been able to accomplish. You could think about dividing it up into the people that are going to focus on education and educational institutions. You could have people who are focusing on corporations and high wealth individuals. I mean, there are various ways that you could look at it, but that's something that could be implemented right away, and I think would be a good way of following through while you look at some of the other good suggestions that you had today.
So I guess, given that, what would you say is most realistic within the next 3 to 6 months of some of the things that were talked about? Does anybody have any comments on this?
Can I just say in 3 months, what our focus is our event, which we, our goal was $750,000, which is hard, in these economic times. But last year we raised almost $500,000, not with a lot of, support. And we've got a good start out the box in that Morgan Stanley has come in at $100,000, and Chrysler is probably coming in at $50,000, and Clarence had said he was working on Pepsi-Cola maybe at $50,000. So, that that is one thing, but there are other things that can be put in place in the 3-month period, even in terms of context or outreach, that will take a year or whatever, 18 months to materialize.
I just say that I find it hard to conceptualize doing what was just asked, writing 4 things down that I'm going to do, because I don't sense that we yet have a plan. I mean, we have a statement of needs. This is what we want to do, and we need this kind of money, but I don't sense out of here that we've moved towards an articulated plan with which we all agree, and that plan would then have elements which we could make commitments to.
George,
Hmm?
I agree with that, but the other thing is that there are lots of directions that we could go with this, and really, if we consider this sort of our brain trust here and people, who can help implement things, it would be good for us in terms of direction, in terms of, coming up with a plan, knowing what resources we actually have. That's all I'm saying, what potential resources we actually have.
But again, it was a discussion we had at this table. The resources you can get to sell this thing, you can't get to sell that thing. So, sort of articulating what it is we're trying to do. You've said what the audience for the thing is. This is perfectly fine. What is the product that we're giving to that audience? Who are we trying to get resources from to help us produce this product? What are we offering in exchange? Who to whom is this most attractive? That kind of plan.
Well, I think one thing we could do, for example, is focus on the dinner.
I'll focus on what?
Focus on the dinner. We have an event in October that we need to raise money for.
But that's fine, but I can't help you with that because I live in Connecticut.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true that you live in Connecticut, you can't help us.
Oh, well, not on a dinner in Chicago.
It's not a dinner. I mean, it's actually a program that is going to air nationally, so it's not just a dinner in Chicago.
Well, why don't you explain it?
Okay, the program is an evening with B.B. King. This year, Isaac Hayes is interviewing B.B. King. It's right that it's taped and held here in Chicago. It's taped as a TV special, live to tape. The sponsors usually our airing is here, on WTTW, and then we have had a great deal of success shopping it to PBS, and so it usually airs on a 2-year cycle. So the sponsors' names appear, the large sponsors are at the top of the show, the other ones are in the credits. So that's what we have, but it's not a dinner, it's a reception and a TV taping.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's the Batman.
Right. So that it's not a, we don't consider it a regional thing. It is something we would like to travel eventually, but it is a more expensive thing to travel than our salute that I'm hoping that the Hilton hotels will come in and do. Yes. Coca-Cola, no, but we're working on Coca-Cola.
I'm going to be meeting with the Vice President of Coca-Cola, who heads up that foundation program, and I will commit to talk to her about the HistoryMakers, and I just need to, and I talked to you offline, but I need to get some information and data for that, and I need you to be prepared to.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because I've also got another vice going into Coca-Cola, and they've made a commitment to this. So, the product becomes critical. It isn't just.
I mean, what are we pitching? What are we pitching Coca-Cola? I'll tell you what we're pitching, because I've talked to both Deval Patrick and Ingrid Saunders-Jones,
right.
Okay, and Alexis Herman.
Right.
So those are the 3 people we've talked about, and I'll tell you what the 3 ideas. Alexis Herman says, let's get Coca-Cola to sponsor top executives, and let's get other corporations around the country to sponsor their own top executives. That can't be an immediate thing. That's one thing. The other thing is that with Ingrid Saunders Jones, it was, can you adopt a category, whether it's civic makers or music makers, and allow us to go some reasonably deep within it, maybe 50 interviews, maybe 100 interviews. And there had been also some mention, an interest on her part in the salute locally there, mainly because their base is Atlanta. So that's what we are sort of pitching in things that can help us sort of develop. I mean, if it would help you, I can, the hour is sort of late, I can go over the things we have. There is our event, which last year was 3 events in one, and they have been separated. There's the Evening With program that allows for TV sponsorship. There's the Salute to the History Makers that now has to be regionalized because we have too many of them. And we're looking for one major corporate sponsor that will take us around, or some regional sponsors that can also supplement that national sponsor. There is a third thing that we have launched called the HistoryMakers Education Institute. And we believe we're doing a pilot program here, but we also believe that that can be nationalized. So those are, you're right that there are other discussions offline, but a lot of times it helps, if we had some understanding of what resources. And we were just throwing it up, not making it mandatory, but just throwing it up to suggestions. Yes?
We had some specific suggestions by individuals from our table, and I'd like to give those to you now, which I didn't give to you before. With respect to Ann Fudge, who is the former president of Kraft, and now she's the president of a large advertising firm.
Maxwell House.
Now she's the president of a large advertising firm on Madison Avenue. I can contact her. I went to college with her husband, Richard Fudge. Excuse me? Well, first of all, to get her interviewed. Secondly, to see if her organization could make major contributions to the HistoryMakers. So that's one thing. Another is for Alma Dodd at our table, said that she has been in touch with Vivian Pickard for General Motors in Detroit, and she's working to get some contributions from General Motors. Christina Kalitis at our table has indicated that she would work with humanities councils in as many states as possible to try to get some funds from those organizations. Alma Dodd said that she's affiliated with the national organization, The Links, 275 chapters. She would work to get contributions through them. At Allstate, Alma Dodd said she would work with Geraldine Thompson to try to get contributions through Allstate. American Express, Ken Chenault is a friend of mine. I went to college with Ken. He's chairman of the board at American Express. I would personally call his home, try to make contacts with him, have him meet with Juliana. I think he should be interviewed, and I'm sure that if we can get him on board, American Express on board, we may be able to get some substantial money there. The other contact is Merrill Lynch. I know Charles Merrill, who is the son of the founder of Merrill Lynch. He's now 82 years of age. He was a benefactor to Morehouse College. He and Benjamin Mays, where he was chairman of the board during Benjamin Mays' period. He has supported Spelman College over the years, Janetta Cole, when she was there. He was a very major supporter to, I can call him tonight or tomorrow. That's no problem. Now, whether he can contact Stan O'Neill, who's the chairman of Merrill Lynch, is another issue. Stan O'Neill is African American, but is Republican. Charles Merrill is a Democrat. He's a very strong Democrat. He's against what's been happening to this country in terms of the war. But he may be able to call Stan O'Neill. I think we should interview Stan O'Neill because he's African American and he's head of Merrill Lynch. But even if Merrill Lynch does not give the money, Charles Merrill, out of his own resources, can give money. And so I can make that happen. I can make that contact, and Juliana could meet with him in Boston, and that would be a lead. So I think we do have some contacts, and I think as long as we stay positive, we can make this happen. If we start talking about the negativity and the difficulty, we can't make it happen. So we got to be positive. If we're positive and work hard, we can do this.
Okay, just before we close, we kind of have this dilemma that we're trying to find out what commitments are available so we know which ways to go. Clearly, people would like a specific plan so they know best how to put the resources into it.
I think the first thing I think the first thing is the HistoryMakers is an organization that we are all here to support, and it is currently doing work, and the issue, as I understood it, was how to describe what we are doing. Not do something different, but how to describe what we're doing and make it attractive to potential funders. So we're not creating a new entity or doing something different. It is to raise funding for the HistoryMakers to accomplish the goals that that the staff are working on every day. And the purpose of this meeting is to brainstorm on ideas on how we can present that material that's being presented, and maybe we focus on who is going to be interviewed as a way of doing, or the groups of people that we're going to do. But fundamentally, we know what the organization is, and that's what we are trying to raise funding on. So I think that we all know that. I think that there are a lot of different ideas that we need to explore, but I think that's going to be a process that's more time consuming. In the interim, we have day-to-day bills that we have to pay, and so we've got to also raise money while we explore whether some of these other things, whether we could get a business school to help us with the business plan, whether some of the other suggestions are going on. So we have two things that are going to be happening at the same time, but I think what Juliana's focused on right now is that we still have the short-term need of needing to continue to raise capital as we continue to go through this growth and development process.
And I would hope that we will check with Julia before we go out and make these contacts. For instance, I'm meeting with Ingrid Jones next month on some other matters, so I could go in and mess up what she's already done if I don't know, and I didn't know you had made that contact, and I would have contacted you anyway. But we need to do that because then we can supplement and build on what, possibly supplement and build on what she's working on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Juliana, to me, the plan is not our plan, it's your plan. I mean, to the extent that we can be helpful, we'll do everything we can but ultimately, I think you're going to have to make some decisions. I'm sure you made a batch of decisions. Maybe you can let us know what those decisions are so that we can figure out how to be helpful.
I think it's a board issue, Frank.
Well, no, seriously, I'm thinking about at an operating management level.
Right.
Because you're talking 3 months or 6 months. We're not talking about some long-term visionary plan. We're just talking about a nuts and bolts. How are you going to make it to the next 3 to 6 months?
Right.
And that's why I think it's your plan. I think this has been a great session, so you got a lot of input and a lot of, energy around what needs to be done. But at some point, I think you have to say, here's a direction, here are the 5 or 3 or 2 things, whatever it is, that have got to happen. And, how can people help accomplishing whatever those real short-term milestones are that, need to get done in the next 3 to 6 months in order for you to survive.
Do you want to say something?
Yes, could I reinforce that? I've sensed that that's one of the problems. We have a small staff, and it's running fast, and can't realize how fast it can run based upon when it's done. Nevertheless, there are some organizational structures that are essential. I think a development office is essential. Now, whether or not that could be lined out by Juliana as something that's important, and then someone could go to Charles Merrill and say, would you make a gift to us to finance that for the next 3 years? As a matter of getting that kind of development office going. But I think the only person who can make the decision that that's what we ought to focus on would be Juliana. And that's where I think part of the problem is deciding who can make what contacts right now. We need to know what the priorities are from your perspective.
Right. Yes, Reginald.
Well, I think just a couple of quick things. I think that, again, I hear that the timing is really critical. And I do think, I don't know about the rest of you, but many times I think it's true of all of us. There are windows of opportunity, targets of opportunity. And I don't know if it's necessary to wait 3, 2, 1 month to have a business plan. Not that I don't think it's required, but there are lots of things, the circles that we travel in, there are windows of opportunities that take place. And I think if all of us are simply clear on what the mission of the organization is, and what we're really trying to do is leverage the mission, the contact, and the technology to generate some kind of revenue stream. And if nothing else, just getting some kind of a commitment to have Juliana or whoever she wants to meet with them. I think it's critical that you have a central clearinghouse where people aren't duplicating efforts, that they do check with you before they attempt to set up meetings. But if any of you are like me, there are lots of opportunities that you just happen to stumble across that aren't anticipated. And I think that that's really the most critical thing. I think you do need a development committee, or whatever you want to call it, but I think the most important is one central clearinghouse. People report to you by email and say, Juliana or whoever, this is what we're anticipating. You have a master calendar, so you know what dates you're available, et cetera, to do that.
Yes, okay, but just one? Okay, one thing.
Because I won't be here in the morning, but I would suggest, and I don't want to change your program for tomorrow morning, nor do I know exactly what you're going to do. But listening to some of the things I've heard the last few minutes, I would suggest that you all consider deciding, but let me answer this question. Are we going to try to get together with this group, say, within a year's time? I know it deals with money and all of that, but is that a goal? Then I'll make my recommendation.
I mean, it could be a goal. The issue is, once again, funding.
I understand that, but I think that should be a goal, and I think it's an achievable goal. But along with that, I would suggest that before you leave tomorrow, is come up with X number of things that you, or that we and you want to do over the next 12 months.
Right.
5, 4, or whatever, and make that the top priority, and let's go out and make it happen.
I agree with that. Who's going to be here tomorrow morning and who's not?
Which one are you asking?
Okay. No. Can you raise your hands? Because there's some people who already said that they could not be here on Sunday. No, I just want the people who will be here. Okay. Will that group be willing to help us hash out the ideas that have been presented today? Yes. Okay, that's what our agenda is going to be tomorrow. Okay. Now, the other thing, I am going to ask you, though, one more time, because it'll help us, because we're going to have to assemble our notes overnight. I want to have you, if you have any other things that people here at these various tables have not stated, and they are ideas or contexts or resources that you can bring to the table, just if you write them down, okay? If
put a blue sticker on them so we can identify them.
And if you don't worry, and it would be helpful to do that in post with a plan in place, that would also. But if you have anything here, like any institutional resources or anything that you can bring to the table, just let us know. Otherwise, I want to really thank everyone for, participating. Yes, Belkis? Yes.
I'm feeling Juliana's frustration because I also am a fundraiser. So I know that she's having this frustration because she's trying to get to you, trying to tell you she has an event that has to take place in 3 months and she has to make the money. So what she's asking for really right now is we've got to have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And the short-term plan is she needs to have sponsors. She needs to have in-kind donation. She needs to have people who will come in and volunteer. I have volunteered to help her at the office. I have volunteered to come in and get her some in-kind printing. I volunteered to get her some sponsors. So that's what she wants from you. Maybe she's too shy to ask, but that's what she wants.
Belkis, no, wait, one thing, don't misread me, okay.
But I
am
can
not-
feel your frustration,
Okay, but
though.
I'm not really, no, I think there've been some wonderful ideas, and we have a diverse group, so I'm not standing here frustrated right now. Not
Well, I am.
Okay, I'm not. There are people that, see, what you have to understand, I believe that everyone can be helpful in a way. And I believe, all I'm trying to do is get people to try to identify, because you know some of the things that we need. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not sitting here frustrated, and I think we've had a very productive day, and I want to end on a very high note, not a down note.
That's not a down note.
No, I know, but because everyone has taken time out of their busy schedule to be here. That shows one commitment, and wanting to be part of something. So, yes, Clint.
Is the B.B. King night
Yeah.
unfunded?
We're halfway there. Yeah, it's halfway there. Oh, no, remember how I said 750,000 was our goal. That's how much we want to raise.
So you're halfway there.
How much does it cost?
It costs probably about 250,000 to put it on. Okay, well, I'm just saying some costs do change.
So you have half of that or half of the 750?
We have half of the 750.
Administrative note.
The 750 is, that's to go on the amount you raised.
Yes.
And the 250 is just to put the event on.
Yes, I mean, I say because there have been some changes here in Chicago, and, it might be cheaper, it may be. No, we're trying to gross, when I use gross.
And you're expecting net 500.
Yes.
And you make the money by selling tickets.
No, really by sponsorships.
So you're trying to raise $750,000
Right.
from sponsors to
Yes.
put on a $250,000
Yes,
event.
the package is in your materials, and we have a whole sponsorship package. I didn't go into that, but they're $5, $10, $25, $50, and $100,000. It's a sponsored event. We don't really make money on ticket sales, so to speak. But I don't want to, you know what? This is the whole thing. Those who think they can help on the fundraiser, let us know. If you can't, don't worry about it, but let us know what you can help on. That's all. Yes. Yeah.
I don't want you to end on it. I don't want you to end on the downer either, but
Okay.
tell me if this is not something that would help. And that would be, what you have to do to accomplish this evening from now until October.
Yes.
You know what you have to do in your plans from now till the end of the year.
Yes.
Could you not send an executive director's letter to all of these people here saying, these are the things that I have to do. Can you sign up to help me with any of these
Yes, we can.
things?
Yes. Yes, we can. Thank you, Norma. Oh.
Just one suggestion, we can talk about this tomorrow morning, but there are obviously lots of different things going on, and people have lots of different skills and webs of association. So one thing that might come out of this would be some networks or some smaller task groups who could then brainstorm and work on specific timetables as much as you want with each other through emails. You had 6 people working on educational projects. I could be talking with VP and this one and that one and so on. And then you can have one group that you can give some instructions to. You say, here's where we are strategically. I need, the contacts, and now let's talk about a 3-month plan on this. That's not going to happen in a big group meeting. But there are a lot of structures that might be intermediate between us as a huge group and poor Juliana sitting there trying to figure it all out. And I think we need to really work on those tomorrow morning.
And thus the National Network Summit. Yeah.
You use the right word. It is about networks. That's what it's for. That's what we hoped we would accomplish here. And we've started. It's the beginnings of a national network. This is it. We're here. We're it.
Well, one of the things that I just want to mention real quickly is that out of the advisory council, we've already identified one committee, and that's the development committee. Maybe we need to look at the other committees that need to be developed, and out of the advisory council, then people will participate on specific committees coming out of this group. And then that way, people will go away with something in hand to work with.
I think that's a good idea, and I think we can try to attempt to do that, at least some of that tomorrow. Okay.
Evaluation.
Evaluations,
okay. Raise the hands one more time. Who is leaving today? Who's leaving today? Well, we're going to hand you an evaluation, please. And just the last point, if anybody did write anything with the card with the blue dot, just please make sure you hand it to one of us. Actually, we prefer to do it now, okay? We'll forgo it.
Poor things don't like. If they ask another thing. So I'm stopping with the asking.
Keep us on the straight.